Hey, Cleaning Nation, Mike Campion here with Cindy Friesen. She started Cindy-rella's cleaning service back in 2014. Back then, I don't think it had a name. She was a solo cleaner. I believe she started hiring employees 2021, and she's in Manitoba, Canada. So we let another Canadian sneak in and serves mostly residential. Did I miss anything or anything wrong, Cindy?
No, you got it right.
Aside from, the pain in the butt Canadian part, that was obviously wrong. But
Oh yeah,
everything
you don't
else,
even know how to say Canada.
I like
Here.
saying Canada. Canadians, Canada. Yeah, sorry, terrible American. All right, so I should know this, but I don't. How long have we been working together? It feels like a year, but
It's 11 months. Next in November will be 12 months.
nice. Okay, so give or take a year. What I love doing when we get our clients on is just to share like where you were before, kind of what made you reach out, what you were scared of, what wasn't working, what you did different, how things are now, just kind of that so people can instead of just hearing our yapping about coaching, actually hear like a real life human that has stuff. So before you reached out, what was going on, not just in your business, but your world that wasn't working or that was frustrating so people can kind of identify if they've got any of that going on?
Okay, so my world was falling apart before I found you guys. I had listened to you guys for many years while I was doing my cleaning through the podcast. And I always wanted to reach out, but I had a spouse who wasn't up for spending money to make money. So he wasn't willing to let me spend the money and grow my cleaning company to better my company. And so, yeah, my world kind of fell apart. The marriage fell apart. And so we separated. And then I think probably 2 months after the separation, I called you guys up, and it's kind of been just going uphill from there. I was at the point where I didn't make money. I wasn't sure how I was going to support myself. Very, very tight. I was still doing some of the cleaning. And so just through following what you guys say and blindly following a lot of the time, not really understanding why I'm doing what I'm doing, it just kind of got to where I am now, where I can easily support myself, and the business is growing. So.
Gosh, I want to like grow my cleaning company proudly, not so proudly breaking up marriages since
No.
2020. It's so funny. I don't think I've ever really heard someone say that. And it's like, it's just interesting to me because obviously we invest in our business all the time, whether it's advertising or payroll or cars or rags or vacuums or training or insurance. Like, so it's just a weird, and again, not judging your ex-husband by any stretch. It's
Right.
just a weird line in the sand. Because I get going, like, I don't want you to be in business because it's risky and you could lose money. Like, I get that.
Right.
But to be like, it's okay to make these investments in your business, like in other things, but not in your own self or your own. It's just an
Right.
interesting.
Well, I wasn't doing the marketing back then either. Like it was
Okay. So it's
just,
really just like I clean for money. It wasn't really a
yeah,
business, self-employed. Okay. That helps. And
yeah.
I
It
help.
was just kind of like we did have employees, but it was just kind of like word of mouth kind of thing. You don't spend money on anything like marketing wise or anything. So when I finally had able to just make my own decisions in the business, then I was like, well, you have to spend money to make money, and like getting a mentor to help you walk through the steps to make the business what you want it to be is totally worth. I figured, well, I'll just do the accelerator program and just go from there. But I fell in love with the company and like you guys and the the mentorship that you guys do. And so I just don't know what I could do without it. Like
You're just here for the events. We have
all the events. Yeah.
So, all right. So, when you say again, look, we totally get going through a divorce. And I know you're,
All good.
Cindy's so sweet and all put back together and all that good stuff. But aside from that, like, what was in the business? Was it more that because you weren't making money, you were cleaning? Why? What were you doing before we get into what changed? Like, what were you doing wrong that people that are now maybe doing getting some of the same things or cleaning too much, not making money? Why was that?
I wasn't charging enough.
Okay.
I had a manager to cover everything for me. And I was only accepting payments after the cleanings. And so then you kind of have to run around and get the payments, and sometimes they just never pay. So you're out the money. And so, yeah, things never worked out. Payroll was always very, very hard that way. And so, yeah, make a couple of hard changes. And here I am today and doing fantastic. So.
Yeah, and it's funny because we always want the easy, like, what's the one thing that you did? And your answer was so perfect. Like it was, I don't know, you said three or four things: manager,
Three, yeah.
paying in advance, pricing enough. So yeah, you gave three examples. And each of those is nice and important, but it's like you put them all together, all of a sudden you got a big change. So
Oh, for sure.
when like just so people kind of have a little bit of idea, you were cleaning a little bit, a lot, none. I don't think it was none. How much were you cleaning before?
I was probably cleaning about half the time.
Okay, so like 20 hours a week.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe a little bit more.
20, 30.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so those are the big changes you made. What kind of difference did it make in your business for like everything, like not just revenue and profit, but like your own, like how are you experiencing? So give us both, if you would, like kind of what happened to your business on the logical side, and then also how you're experiencing it in terms of it. Do you enjoy it more or less? Are you working, like, just kind of walk us through before and after, if you would.
So while I was actually working, like doing the cleaning, doing part of the cleaning, I still had to like manage the cleaners, right? And then so I had hired a manager to help do that. And then I had gotten out of the cleaning, but it was still, I was kind of managing as well as her, the day-to-day stuff. And so it just wasn't enjoyable. I kind of lost focus on the business and knowing exactly what was going on. And so now that all I have right now is myself and a scheduler, and yeah, like there's days where I sit in front of the computer for an hour. Like there's just, I'm so much happier now where I'm at. Clients, like even just the core values, like learning how to hire core values employees and core values clients and stuff, like it just makes such a difference because then you don't have those crazy people to deal with. Sorry, I don't know if I answered your question.
You did, and you said something really interesting. I don't remember. I don't know that it really matters, but I'm guessing the manager's making somewhere in the 30, 40, $50,000 range. Like it was a
Yeah.
salaried position. Okay. And it's so funny that she was making that, and it felt like, because again, I'm going to dive into this a little bit because I know a lot of people out there listening are in that same spot. And we hire a manager because like this is a bunch of crap I don't want to do. So we're in so much pain because we're doing the cleaning and running everything. Or if I just had a manager, then I could do it. We pay, I would say, too much because you weren't making any money. So obviously, when
Oh
she's
yeah,
making
it
more
was
money
too
than you
much.
are, it's too much, right? But we do it because we're like, oh my god, if I didn't have her or him, like we feel like we're desperate for them. And I know it was more difficult for you emotionally than it probably was like what you
Oh
actually went through was no
yeah,
big deal. Like the fear of the thing was way bigger than the thing.
absolutely.
And now you've got one scheduler that's making 10-20% of what the other person was making. You
Yeah.
had low confidence you could replace that manager. So, oh my gosh, she's doing everything. And I'm guessing you were working more, managing her, paying her 5-10 times what you're paying the scheduler. Why do you think that? I mean, I've got thoughts, but everyone's heard me enough. Why do you think? Because we think the man, and I don't think she was lying or cheating. I'll bet you she was working 20, 30, 40 hours a week, just not getting goddamn results. So it's not like she was doing nothing. Why do you think she was able to work, call it 30, 40 hours a week, take 2, 3, 4, 5 grand a month? And now somehow like the work didn't evaporate. Like what happened? How are you working less and she's not here and you only have one schedule? Like, what do you think happened there?
With the program, we set up a lot of systems, like just you guys have your systems that you teach us. And once you learn them, it's just totally streamlined. And so now with these systems, things get done in like 10% of the time that it would have taken the scheduler to do it because the system just wasn't there. And so, and I think a lot of time it was just busy work that she was doing. She wasn't necessarily really focused. And I've started learning how to focus my time and time block and be like, I need half an hour to do this. And so we're just going to focus on that. And like answering service, I don't have to answer the phone now. I found that was a huge distraction before. Phone calls from everybody, employees and clients and new clients and whatever. It just totally like sidetracks what you're trying to do. And so I think just a lot of the systems, we didn't have systems before, we have systems now. And so that just makes everything go a lot quicker.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm hearing for each of these, there's like 2 or 3 or 4 subsets. When I'm like, well, what changed? Like, well, we hired an answering service. I didn't realize how big of a deal that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are 1 or 2 or 3 of the other things that that people that have an answering or that have a manager, a VA, or an ops manager, whatever they want to call them, that you were able to do to kind of not have that bottleneck of that one person that you felt could kind of ruin your company if you fired them or if they quit?
Just to have a really good scheduling program. We didn't have the best scheduling program before, so now we're spending a lot more money on a scheduling program, but it actually works. Like it's actually, you set it up once and it works forever. And kind of just through that program, that's kind of how you message the clients, and then you're not looking all over the place, email, this email, that text message on that phone, the text message on that phone. All your messages are on one place. So I think that just streamlines it like crazy. But even just the way that you hire, you spend half an hour a week just doing group interviews instead of having 10 applicants and doing like a 15-minute interview for each of them, right? Like it's just so much easier just sitting down for half an hour, interviewing 10 people at one time and choosing from there. And so.
And then if I'm not mistaken, you probably have your cleaners do the one-on-one interviews, the working, like they train, like all that. So you're kind of out of the training, and you could have a cleaner do the group interview. But if you're like, hey, it's a half hour, I want to do it. Hey, Clean Nation, Mike Campion here. One of my least favorite things about these podcasts are we found that people love the show and they love the information. But when I talk to you guys in person, stuff doesn't get done. People love the podcast, but they don't take any action. If you'd like to actually implement this and get this done in your world, we have a whole team of people that do exactly that. If you go to growmycleaningcompany.com/talk, you can book a time with either myself personally or one of our teammates to at least help you come up with a plan to actually implement and change your life. So if you want to go from getting these good ideas in your head to getting them in your life, just book a free call with myself or my team, growmycleaningcompany.com/talk. And we can go from this one-to-many format to one-to-one and really get you some results. Excited to talk. When you talk about a scheduler, because you mentioned you have a scheduler who's a human, and then you've got the software. I was going to ask, it's tough because I want to let people know what that would cost. Like, what's that scheduler cost? Is that like a $2,000 or $3,000 thing? Cindy's in our next level program, so I think we do the scheduling for her as part of that.
Nope.
Oh, we don't. Okay, so
no, because you guys started offering that after I'd hired her and trained her already, and so we pay her about $500 a month.
Perfect. And that's what I was going to say is what it should cost, but I thought you're so nice. I'm cheap. I'd be like, sorry, girl, we're going to get you doing something different. I'm saving the $500.
Oh, but she's doing so amazing that I don't want to fire her. So
well, you see, you're a better human than I am. So just moving from, and we talk about thin slicing, right? Where the answering service might be, I don't know, $200-$300. The schedule's $400-$500. Like if you get just, and they're like the answering service, the likelihood they're going to quit is very low. And if they do, you just get someone else. But like, so again, just the systems of having, we call it thin slicing, whereas opposed to there's one big bottleneck of your manager, even though she was a very nice lady and I'm sure moderately talented, there's not a lot of people that are really good at scheduling and answering services and selling and like all the things that you would have had her do. So she's just kind of okay at most of them, and you have to overpay because no one can do all of it. But the answering service, you can pay a reasonable amount because that's all they do. And the scheduler, that's all they do. So they don't have to be trained in all these things. So what's the biggest surprise? Because everyone's kind of like, oh, I want to make more money and work less. And you can share however much or little about that you want. But anything about your business that you're like, I didn't see that coming. Like, I didn't realize I was so unhappy doing this and it's now this, or this is something I love about my business that I didn't see coming that maybe other, and if you're like, nope, it's just the money or just like share whatever you want. But what was for you the biggest shift in your life?
I think just switching everybody to prepayment at the beginning of the month on credit card payments, that has been a game changer. I fought you for a long time on that. I think I only switched over 3 months ago.
So only 9 months of Cindy paying me for my advice did it take for her to find me. All right, I'll do it.
Yeah, I am a very stubborn person. And so it took me that long to actually realize. And before that, there's always once a month that I didn't have enough money for payroll. Mm-hmm. And so now that's not a problem anymore. Now, as long as I'm budgeting my money properly throughout the month, there's always enough. So that was a game changer for me. Yeah, I was very stubborn, but yeah, Mike, you were right. So
yeah, and I've got a recording. So there we go. Just play
Tell your wife.
For my wife. Look, other women think I'm smart and right. Why? So for you, and I do want to, before we end, and I want to talk a little about, because you're correct. Like, are you just, because you just literally shared it with me in Slack, are you okay sharing kind of your last month's numbers? And more importantly, why you're getting such good results. So yeah, anyway, Cindy just shared last month just in Slack just to celebrate like what her added revenue was. But tell us, yeah, the bids, the sales, the revenue, why you think that's happening in your world.
Okay, so September, I had 29 leads, and out of those 29 leads, I got 22 bids and 18 sales. So I guess that's 82% bids to sales. So I was very pumped about that. And that's like $5,100 in sales that month, added to my
Which
revenue.
sounds a lot like $60,000 a year of recurring revenue you added in 1 month.
Yes.
And I was doing
Yeah.
the math, and then she was even fighting me on that. I'm like, so if you add $60,000 a month in a year, you'll have added $750,000 to your business. Not a bad little
Yeah.
month worth of work. Anyway, continue. So
Yeah, so like it just I've been working on a manifesting program with Suzanne, and just kind of going through that program on my own. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking what happened there, just kind of my mindset change and expecting these things to happen before they happen. So that's kind of where I'm, I think the leads are coming from, and just being my authentic self when I go and do the walkthroughs, I think makes a huge difference. And so yeah, yesterday I went and I did 9 walkthroughs and I got 8 sales that yesterday.
Good
so
Lord.
That was a huge day. In Manitoba we had a holiday, and so everybody was off of work, so I figured that was the perfect time to go and do walkthroughs where both husband and wife are home, so that they can make the decision by them, together right there on the spot. So yeah, it was a crazy day, but it was a very productive day. So
it's so funny because my part, Suzanne's one of our mindset coaches, and my part is very much the tactical. Here's how you set the calls. Here's what you say while you're on the calls. And here's like the blocking and tackling of sales. And that's super important. Yeah. But I love that the layer of your belief, because if you're technically perfect, but your beliefs or how you choose to relate or experience the sales calls are bad, you're really, really going to struggle. So I love that you're leaning into the, not just the what to do and how to do it, but how to look at it. And that must have felt great. If you do 9 calls and get 8 new sales, that must feel like you must just I'm sure you walked in every deal just like, of course they're going to buy. Of course.
That's kind of how I walk into the walkthroughs these days, just assuming. Like I assumed to get all nine sales yesterday. I got 8. I'm still happy with that. But I just assume that I'm going to get it, because if you wouldn't have called me out to do a walkthrough of your home and give you an estimate if you weren't actually serious about doing something about your problem. And so you can find out the problem, then you can tell them how to solve it.
Yeah. And again, who wants to have a contractor or a vendor out to their house? Like, you got to put on pants and semi clean up, and who needs all that, right? Like, it's not a fun thing to do. Like, yeah. So I'm going to end with a question and then just leave it up to you to give Cleaning Nation whatever feedback or advice or perspective you think would be useful. But the last question I wanted to hit you with is, not only did you get 8 out of 9, which is good, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, so correct me if I'm overstating, but I'm guessing you did it at pricing that a year ago you would have been like, oh my gosh, I can never ask that much. I'm going to, they're going to hate me or they'll whatever. How did you go from being terrified to even ask that much to, yeah, of course they're going to pay that much, and that becoming your reality, not just your belief?
Yeah, I think it was all just mindset that we're worth the service. And so if we are quoting X amount of money, which is way more than what I ever would have estimated like 2 years ago, just knowing myself that we are worth the service and not doubting and not letting that doubt show through while I'm giving the number to them, I think that makes all the difference. Because yeah, I estimated some of these cleans yesterday thinking in the back of my mind they're never going to go for it because because I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money to clean your home. But they're like, absolutely, let's do it. When can you put me on the schedule? Like, so yeah, no, I think it's just confidence and a lot of mindset. And so
yeah, I love that. Okay, yeah. Thank you for sharing. Last thing, just anything for Cleaning Nation. There's hundreds, maybe thousands of ladies right now listening right now. They're like, I'm afraid to price. I'm afraid to let my ops manager go. I'm afraid to be profitable. Like, what would you say? Just if they're going, you know, Cindy, if you had 5 minutes or 1 minute, what would you tell me to change my life? Speak to that gal.
Absolutely get rid of your office manager. She is charging far too, you're spending far too much money on her to just, do busy work because it actually doesn't even take that long once you have proper systems to do it. And that money belongs in your pocket, not her pocket, because you're the one who has built this business to where it is now. And price increases, it's hard. It's really hard. But once you actually do them and you see the difference from what you used to get paid, your profit, and what you now get paid, it's like you just gave yourself a big raise. And it's like, I actually can do my payroll and still pay myself a very living wage and not have to like pinch pennies. And so do the hard things. They will be scarier thinking about them than actually doing them. So
that's such a great point. I don't want to push my luck too much, but when you talked about getting paid in advance, was that the same? Did you find that to be the same? The fear of that was greater than actually doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm like, a lot of people are gonna be like, well, why would I pay before a service? Like that doesn't make sense to me. What if I'm not happy, right? So you just have to, tell them that if they're not happy, you're gonna fix it no matter what. And so sometimes that does mean refunding some money. But we try not to, right? We try to go back and fix it and make sure that they're completely happy. So it was a lot scarier than what it actually ended up being.
Anything to add, or you feel like you've communicated everything in Clean Nation?
I think I communicated everything. Yeah.
Well, I'll leave all of you guys with this encouragement. I've definitely found in business the fear of, we are so much more tolerant of death by 1,000 cuts. Like when someone comes to me, like Cindy, when you first came in, you're like, I'm not making any money. I'm working really hard. Those are really the two things. I'm working really hard for virtually no money or no money. To me, that's terrifying. Like I couldn't do that. And then when we say things like raise prices or get paid in advance or have a difficult conversation with an operations manager who I think you had a pretty good personal relationship with. It's not like she was just some stranger, like you guys.
Yeah, we were kind of friends as well. So
and hopefully still are.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. I said hopefully you take, or maybe she's not someone that you want to be friends with, but
no.
Those are scary things. But to me, it's a lot less painful to have a difficult conversation with a client, with an employee, with a former employee, than to be like, I can't pay my goddamn bills. Or I'm going to spend 6 hours cleaning today and make no money, or make less than I would make if I just cleaned for Merit Maids or something like that. So just want to encourage you guys and gals, Cleaning Nation. And even then, I'd rather go down swinging, right? Because we're afraid, like say we're not making any money, or we're overwhelmed, or we're overworked, or we're just, people get to the point where they're burnt out and they're just going to quit physically or mentally or emotionally, and they'll almost shut their business down before they'll have a difficult conversation. Well, shoot, let's have the conversation. At least maybe they say yes. So I just want to encourage all of you guys, gals, if you're not living the life that you want, do something different. And even if you don't get the result or the greatest fear that you think is going to happen, which almost never does, but if it does, better that than just like, well, I guess I'll just keep cleaning for no money, right? Like I think we're very tolerant of dying by 1,000 cuts as opposed to the fear of one difficult conversation. Like be a big boy, big girl, have that difficult conversation. Be like, I'm just not willing to pay the price in installments anymore. Like credit card fee, like you have the money to pay off the credit card debt, just pay it off. Like, no, I want to pay the interest. I got to pay it over time. It's crazy. So hopefully that's encouraging, Cleaning Nation. If you need other help, feel free to growmycleaningcompany.com, reach out, let us know if we can help. But kick butt. And if there's a change that in your gut, you're like, oh, Cindy's speaking to me, I know I need to do X. Do that right now. Don't go to the next podcast. Take a minute, hit a pause. Reach out to us and let us know that you can, so we can support you and tell you what a great job you did. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate your time and attention. We'll talk soon, Cleaning Nation. See ya. Hey, Cleaning Nation, if you dug the content you just got, we don't do any ads and I don't sell anything on this podcast, but if you would just subscribe, rate, and review, it would be huge and I'd be so appreciative. Not only is it going to help me, but you'll help other owners of cleaning companies across the world work less, make more, and get profitable. So if you appreciate the value we give, again, subscribe, rate, and review. It'd mean the world to me. I'd really appreciate it. And we sure appreciate your time and attention.